What areas do you think INEC should look into as we go to the polls on Saturday? Zadok.
I think first would be the logistics of getting the election materials to the election units on time. And the second one would be to communicate properly and effectively and clearly. Some of what has created the challenges we have in this presidential election was because INEC miscommunicated too many things. For instance, INEC had said emphatically that results were going to be transmitted from the polling units to the IREC server. But that couldn't have been possible on a large scale, considering the limitations of infrastructure we have in Nigeria. But they did push that without telling the electorate and the participant that there's a caveat. We may transmit either, so that gives people an opportunity to know that there are more than one option. But when you make it emphatical, when you make it specific that was what, and you didn't do that, that would create room for suspicion. So INEC should communicate the process of this coming election clearly, what's going to be done. They should engage citizens. They should let citizens know what the procedure is. We must commend agencies like IAGA for what they are doing to, bring out advocacy and education. So INEC should do that because they are the ones with the custody of the money that is meant for elections. They should spend that money and communicate effectively so that on going to this election, for instance, everybody knows what you are supposed to do. Look, in the last election, I will tell you, I am not a staff of INEC, but I will tell you something that happened, that I believe happened. I think politicians went for the beavers machine because they had assumed that once results are transmitted, any result transmitted from the beavers machine becomes authentic. Because once that result is taken and it enters the IREF, the onus would then be on IREF to prove that that's not the authentic result. And that was what INEC tried to stop immediately. Because we now found incidents where politicians were hijacking and stealing the beavers. Politicians were taking the electoral officers and looking at how to compromise them to get results of the beavers. So once you take the snapshot of the results and you post it online, it doesn't matter whether people vote in that place or not. And then I think that INEC as post-election has not come out to inform people of what transpired, so that citizens can also be on the side of INEC, because the politicians in Nigeria are probably the smartest anywhere you'll find in the world. They understand how to adapt effectively when it is required. They understand how to prepare. And so if you give politicians room to compromise the process, they are going to do it. And I think they tried. INEC has come up to say that their server was attacked so many times during the process of this election. Because people knew, the participants knew, that once a result hits the IREF, it becomes the authentic result, even if you wrote it in your home. INEC should not have made that provision available. They should have said, we would either do this or this. So that would keep the politicians guessing what INEC will use. So I think that if they deal with communication effectively, ensure that the materials are at the polling units on time, we would have a good election.
Okay.
They must also take into cognizance the fact that now politicians are aware that in places where election is disrupted or where the vote is not does not tally with the number of people that are accredited to vote, that the results will be cancelled. Politicians will, I can tell you that for a fact, that politicians will try as much as possible to look at areas where they don't have an advantage, to try and cause disruption in those places so that elections will be terminated.